Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Sotah page 44, which discusses a situation that when the Jewish people are engaged in battle, there are certain people that are exempt from fighting. The Torah specifically mentions three. Mentions an individual who built a house and he hasn't lived there yet. He's planted a vineyard, but he hasn't allowed those crops to grow long enough to be able to enjoy them and to redeem them. And also he's engaged. He didn't get married yet, but he's in this process of Embarrassment. So these three situations, we say he does not have to fight and he actually ends up going back. So in this, interestingly enough, the Talmud tells us there's no coincidence the particular order. It tells us specifically, build a house, then it says plant a vineyard, and then get engaged, get married, to tell us that that is the proper way of conducting oneself. Namely, if a man is about to get married, and as a man, you should have all of your things in order in your life. So instead of just getting married and then deciding, gee, I guess I better find a place to live, gee, I better figure out what type of job I'm going to have to be able to support my family. On this, the Torah is alluding through a hint that no, first make sure you have a house. Make sure you have a livelihood, which again represents this field. And only after you have a good idea of you being a strong financial support system to be able to have a family, then you can get married. Don't just get married and not have all these things in order. Now, it's also interesting, the Talmud points out that there's another individual who is not obligated to stay in the battlefield. In fact, we'll tell them to leave. And that is someone who is afraid and someone whose heart is soft. Now, it could literally mean that they're just scared that they're going to get killed, which is a possibility for anyone about to fight. And therefore, there's an opinion that is actually referring to someone who did a lot of sins. They've committed a lot of terrible sins, and because of that, they're afraid that God will judge them on the battlefield, and they're going to probably die. They don't have the merit to be able to be spared. And because of this fear of all the sins that they committed, we say, you know what, you could go as well. But on this, the Talmud tells us something amazing. The reason why we have all of these people coupled together is so we do not embarrass this man. Because if we would say that this is the only person who's free from fighting, everyone would know that this person's a sinner, this person is a criminal, he's done all these things bad, and he'll end up being embarrassed and humiliated for his wrongful actions. And therefore, what we do is we include him among these other people. And therefore, if anyone sees this guy leaving the battlefield, no one's going to automatically assume he's a sinner. They'll think, oh, maybe he has a house. Maybe he just got engaged. Maybe he has a vineyard. So a person is going to end up not judging this individual negatively because we're sensitive in the way that it was constructed that they're all together. A similar idea is what we mentioned before. In the temple, when it came to various sacrifices, there was a sin offering and an elevation offering. An elevation offering is brought in a lot of regards because you have a desire to want to connect to God. So therefore you bring this beautiful offering. A sin offering is because you did a sin. And it's interesting that when it came to the slaughtering of these animals, they were both done on the northern side of the temple. Why? It was done deliberately so that, again, if you did a sin, you wouldn't say to yourself, you know what, I don't want to actually bring a sacrifice because everyone's going to know that I'm a sinner. Everyone is going to know I did terrible things. So therefore, we say, no. We're going to have you slaughter this animal in the exact same location as the person who is bringing this elevation offering so that no one is going to accuse you or think negatively about you. So we find from here, even in the time we're looking at someone who is a criminal or is a sinner, has done things wrong, we're still sensitive to make sure as not to embarrass that person. How much more so do we have to be extra careful that when we engage in conversation with people, that we have to be so careful not to embarrass them and make sure to be sensitive at all times.